So, welcome to the Self-Care on Board podcast. Today, I'd like to introduce you to Despo Pishiri. So, Despo, I met Despo in Dubai, and I had also a couple of healing sessions with you. So, welcome, Despo.
Thank you for inviting me. Thank you for inviting me.
Thank you for being here. And so, guys, I'd like to introduce you to Despo because we would like to speak about self-care tools. And Despo is a certified clinical hypnotherapist, but also a naturopatist. I hope I pronounce this correctly. Naturopath. There we go. And we like to look at modalities that can also help to further enhance your self-care, self-development, and healing. So before we begin, I'd like to give you an idea. What is your background here, Despo? How come you're doing what you're doing now?
Okay. Can I take you back in time a little bit to tell you how I started my journey?
Yes.
It was at times, I was in the corporate world and I suffered severe depression. It was difficult times for me and my family. And it was at that time, and perhaps the first time in my life, I decided to put me first. Because at that time that I'm talking about over 10 years ago, and I was younger than I am now, I would say late 40s, I suffered with, I was diagnosed with Hashimoto's, I was diagnosed with acid reflux. I had high cholesterol, insulin resistance, insomnia, name it. So I realized this is not good for me. I just need to find a solution to help myself. So it was the first time in my life I put me first. And I said, you know what? I need to do some changes. And that was the time I gave up my corporate role, seeking for change, seeking for meaning in life. And everything from there went, because I let go of my perception that unless I work, I am somebody. Unless I work and I make money, I contribute better. And once I let go of that idea and I put me first, things rolled. Just by reading one book, it changed my life. And I thought that's what I want to do. I want to help people. I want to heal people. And one led to another. And I started my therapy, starting as with clinical hypnotherapy, which is an amazing tool. And around the world, there are many clinical hypnotherapists. But I also combine my clinical with spiritual hypnotherapy.
I love that.
Spiritual is a little bit deeper. Is going back to find the root cause, which might not even relate to this life. It might relate to past life experiences and how, we grow as human, as souls, the spirit, how do we develop our spirits. So it's very deep. So combining the two together, and later on the circumstances, were brought where I also became a naturopath. So naturopathy is more healing people with natural remedies and food, because food is medicine. And, you can call it God, or you can call it source, or you can call it universe, has given us everything. We have everything we need to heal ourselves. And so utilizing whatever is already there, especially 21st century, with online shopping, you can have everything you want at your doorstep. So it's easy for us now to heal ourselves with naturopathy, much easier than it used to be in the past. So I combine these two tools, sound therapy, as well as my own technique that I created. I call it spiritual coaching. So we combining my tools, I help my clients heal holistically. So
Nice, that's good. So this is actually quite funny because I just made a transition out of corporate. How did you find yourself? Because you wrote a book.
yeah.
Tell us a little bit about this book. You wrote this in 2021. What is this about?
Yeah, I published it in 2021. Now, as I told you earlier, I started my journey with hypnotherapy. So it was during, in hypnotherapy, we have different tools, and I mentioned clinical and spiritual. So spiritual tools are very important for us because they take us straight to the root cause of the problem. So it was during one of those sessions while I had a client under hypnosis doing what I call in my book higher self therapy. So higher self is the extension of us because we exist in two dimensions. We exist in a physical body, but our higher self also exists in the spirit side. So sometimes we seek answers by directly connecting with the higher self, saying what is going on. So during one of these client sessions, it's a very, very specific type of client that their brain waves go into gamma brain waves.
Oh.
Normally, when we get clients, to achieve, hypnotherapy, we aim for alpha.
Yeah.
Alpha is a deep state of relaxation, and that's if we go to alpha, we are happy, or even theta, but those two is what we are aiming. But this particular client's goal goes into gamma. It means that she passes into a different type of she's somewhere in between. When she gets into that, she's not in the spirit and she's not in the physical world. So she's somewhere in between. So she there is the best type, for channeling. So I did not realize that until I put her under hypnosis, and there, I channeled her higher self, and I was literally channeling her higher self. So it was an amazing experience because I didn't expect this to happen. I was expecting through her to get some conversation with her higher self, but her higher self felt that it's better to sideline her completely and speak to me directly. So I started a channeling session out of nowhere. So it was an amazing, it gave me so much direction how to help her, and as it happens, all her problems have vanished because I was given so much direction. But it was during that session also, while I was trying to close and wrap up that question, her higher self says, your higher self wants to connect with you. And I just didn't know how this is possible, because I don't go into this level of hypnosis. And she said, her higher self says, no, I will move away. I will take a side. I will go to the side, and your higher self will channel through her. I said, is that possible? They said, and it says, of course it's possible, because she became the channel basically. And that's what happens. So my higher self comes through and starts talking about my past lives and, what am I supposed to do here and how we grow spiritually. And of course, telling me that I'm doing the right thing. That's where I had to be. I had to get out of the corporate. I have to do this. Explaining that it's not my first life that I have done this. It's just in this life, I was sidetracked. And I didn't get into it earlier, but basically giving me comfort. That's where you have to be. Don't worry about it. So then, that was obviously a pivotal time for me, and that completely changed the way I see things. And I realized that we are spiritual beings having a human experience, not the other way around. And I realized that, and that realization obviously changed my mind, but it led to many, many, many more channelings using the same lady, which I later on, it became like a business transaction where, I pay her to sleep so I can do what I do. And to this day, because writing the book that I am writing now, which is Naturopathy, I use her as a channel. But talking about from darkness to light, it's really helping us to see things from a different angle, to see our spirit side, and see how we are here to grow spiritually. And it debunks also a lot of sort of religious beliefs about hell and about this kind of thing that really don't exist. And it helps us to see things and grow spiritually, and that's what is the book all about.
So, wow, okay. Looking at this, and Yachting International Radio is listened by yachties. It's for yachties and yacht crew. And looking at your own journey, what would you consider on a spiritual perspective what emotional and mental suffering is, per se? Like, if you work on a boat, your life is pretty restricted because you're giving your life pretty much away to outside parties deciding for you where you're going to be, when, where, and what you're going to eat and everything. I mean, your life is not necessarily, you're not constantly...
It's not yours.
Yeah, it's not yours.
See, if I were to be working with somebody that is working on ships and spends a lot of time in the sea, I am sure if I ask, why did you choose this profession? I'm sure the first thing that will come to mind is that the love for the sea, the love for traveling, which are all true. Because it's difficult to do such a profession if you don't really have that love and passion for the sea, because you sacrifice a lot. But the life of a sailor is a very lonely one. And in a way that you say that they have the crew members and all that kind of thing, and they make friends. But all aspects of our life need to be balanced. So a lot of people that are in the sea, yes, they have colleagues, maybe they love each other, and maybe they have that deep connection. But family and friendship outside the workplace is also very important. So once there is an imbalance between these dynamics, suffering happens. And another thing that I would say, the first question that I would ask a person, a sailor, if they came to me for depression, for example, the first question that I would ask, what did they run away from? Because, obviously, if you are a happy sailor, you won't come to me. But if you are an unhappy sailor and you came to me, their profession would be, for me, the clue. Did they run away from something? Was it something in their life they were trying to avoid? Any difficulties? And definitely, and if that's not the story, definitely, people that are working on as a crew on ships, I would advise, the owners to do a lot of things that, keep developing them and keeping them engaged in order to keep them happy, even, when they spend many months perhaps on the sea without seeing their loved ones.
See, I mean, some of them decide at very young age because they want to travel, because they don't really want to have a break, don't want to go to uni directly. And then obviously the pay is also very attractive.
Yeah.
Yet again, we do see Yachting International Radio does uncover a lot of these well-being challenges, which is good because it's not only rosy from the outside. And emotional and mental suffering per se, how would you say that you could actually really work on that if you really have your own self-care toolkit? What would you do? What would you recommend? Because we find a lot of addictions also on board. We find, but in every industry you find it. If you work in PR, if you work in banking in London, London, it's the same,
Of course. But, you touched an important point. You said addictions.
Yes.
No addiction on earth that is happening just because of boredom. No addiction. All addiction, especially if it's, I'm not talking about, especially if it's alcohol, and I'm talking to the point of alcoholism, I'm talking about not having a couple of drinks, and drugs. For me, it means a very, very deep trauma. So if anybody is experiencing, and I'm going back to what I just said, running away. So if somebody is on a boat and is not for the love of the sea and the money and the travel, I will immediately assume they're running away from something. There is a deep trauma to be resolved. And I will work on that. Because the minute you heal the trauma, you minute to heal the root cause of the problem, addiction will go. Because what is addiction? Addiction is the body's mechanism to deal with the shortages of dopamine, because the body is overloaded with cortisol and it requires dopamine. So every addiction is seeking dopamine. So why am I seeking dopamine? Why is my dopamine very low? It's because my cortisol is very high. My stress hormones are very high. So I seek to numb the pain through, taking something. So this is what I would say, that these people need help. When I work with clients that have depression, I had so many clients that they were on antidepressants, and gradually they got off them because they healed the root cause of the problem. Whatever it was, from the traumas that they're carrying, because depression, again, there is no, inherited depression. It's self-inflicted. It's something that we are still holding on, and we are not letting go.
Self-inflicted. That's the key word.
It's a key word, actually.
Yeah, this is very controversial. I think this is going to rock the boat in some people, but please elaborate on that.
I would tell you something. I see people that they have gone to psychiatrists, to psychologists for 10 years. Yes. They put them on antidepressants, they put them on psychotic medication, but they don't resolve their problem, right? So the issue is to get to the root cause. And the minute you get to the root cause, and frankly, to be honest with you, I know it's controversial, but I don't care. I am not gonna be quiet, because I know that, when it comes to psychiatry, to me personally, it's a failed profession. And now, psychology is different. Psychology is different because, it's helping you in a way. But having said that, again, a little bit controversial, if you allow me, I realized from my work that, when you go to a psychologist, for me, it's like if you're going to a doctor and they put a bandage on your wound, so you feel okay for a while. It's still bleeding inside, but you're feeling okay. So you go home, you go back into your misery, and you go back putting another bandage. I don't work like that. I make people responsible.
Ooh.
So, when they come, when I talk about responsibility, and let's say somebody was telling me, but how am I responsible? I had a narcissistic relationship. He was beating me up for 6 years. I said, why did you stay in this relationship for 6 years?
Exactly. That is the question.
Exactly. So I am not saying that the responsibility means it's your fault.
No.
So, and this is what then I differentiate and I realize, and I explain to my clients that by saying you're responsible, I mean, you didn't do anything to help yourself. So if you are in a narcissistic relationship, why did you stay in it? Why didn't you leave from the beginning? Why you stayed for 6 years? You could have left after 3 months. Or, and this is what I mean responsibility. I don't mean it's your fault. It means
no.
You always have a choice to resolve it, but then there is something that is holding you back. And this is my job, is to get out what has been holding you back. Why
you're stuck
in that spot. And then I help them to resolve. So yes, psychiatry, as I said, for me, I don't have respect for it. I have to admit. And if it was me, with psychology, should be a bit more, instead of keeping people in the victimhood,
yes.
which is what psychology does actually. For me, I take them out of the victimhood and I give them the power. So it's giving them back the power to change their lives.
And not repeating the story again and again,
Absolutely.
Because the nervous system would not know whether it happened in the past or it's happening again.
Exactly. It's a vicious cycle, actually.
Yeah, it's like yes, because I remember when my father passed away, I had a severe PTSD, and I went to the psychiatrist, and they wanted to give me directly medication. I said, no, I'm grieving. This is normal that I feel the way how I feel. Like, don't let me numb it. Because I need to go through it. I knew already by the age of 19, I need to go through it.
Of course.
And it's a painful process because it's severe, Yeah. But if you don't go through it, and then though eventually, like later on, yes, you do numb it with alcohol, with drugs,
Exactly.
with codependency, attachment styles of the same boyfriends, bosses, whatever you choose. And this can last for a long, long time in your life if you don't tackle the root cause.
Don't resolve it, actually.
Yes.
You are exactly right. Can I take this opportunity to talk about grieving?
Yes.
Because you touched the nerve there. And you are exactly right to say that grieving is a process. We have to go through it until we accept the loss of a loved one. But, when my brother passed about 4 years ago, I was like the hero that went home to help everybody. I took my tools and I was talking to everybody, and I calmed them down. I took all my tools and I neglected myself.
Yeah.
So I didn't allow myself to go through this grieving process. And a year later, I remember I went back home because, in my country, Cyprus, where I'm coming from, we have an annual service at church. It's a memorial. So we are at the church, and it hits me right there and then. So I started my grieving process a year later than everybody else. And because it's been overloading for a year, for 3 months, I couldn't get off the bed. I was in a bad state. And I realized it's because I didn't allow grieving to happen. So grieving is a process that we need to nurture it and allow it to do its job and help. Because grieving is actually a process of healing from a loss. So we should allow it to. And a lot of people that I get, actually, a lot of my clients, that they come depressed is because of having gone through grieving for a long period of time, not letting go, not letting their loved ones rest anyway. And this is why we go into the process of helping them let go and heal.
This is really a spiritual process there.
Yes.
So
exactly.
Now, grieving can be taking place in many different cases. It's not just needs to be a loss of someone. It can be for instance, like last year, like losing your identity, what you mentioned about the corporate world, that you had to also let go of that person that you're supposed to be at that time and stage.
Yeah.
And I've experienced a similar, because I was that role. And I'm going through the grieving stage now, like 4, 5, 6 months ago. And this healing is really, like I mentioned to you today, that my blood results came back with Epstein-Barr virus. And I knew, like, the doctor looked at me and said, "You don't even know what year I had behind me, and you have an idea about my year." I said, it was a roller coaster of a ride. So I'm quite surprised. I'm not surprised that I have it, that the antibodies are there, but it's part of the grieving process, because the natural nature puts me to rest. Rest now.
Exactly. I have two things. I know it's not a personal therapy, but
it's okay.
We spoke about EBV earlier, and virus.
Sorry, it's Epstein-Barr virus for everyone. It's a virus. It's like chronic fatigue. Yeah, we call it EBV. Yeah.
Yeah. So Epstein-Barr and all other viruses, in order to survive, they require a certain environment. They will not fight a war; they will lose. So when you're under stress, we have so many viruses that they get triggered by stress. So shingles, for example, it's called the stress. It's a herpes virus. It's a stress. So when you are overstressed, it takes over your body, and it's a very painful one. But all viruses, similarly, when you are under stress, they have the upper hand, because we create internally the environment for them to thrive. Low vibration because of our negative state of mind.
Yeah.
And when you are in a negative state of mind, you also don't eat properly. A lot of people go into binge eating, eating things that they shouldn't be eating, sugars, alcohol, all that kind of thing. They make the body acidic rather than alkaline. And that's a fertile ground for viruses to grow. So, and this is, when clients I get with EBV or HPV, and we take them through the protocols. And so you've got to heal two sides of the, it's not just giving them some remedies, but you have to heal the root cause of the problem, which is actually the mental. So this is what holistic means. Holistic means you heal both sides, you heal all aspects of the disease, which is, and again, being a bit controversial, I feel that this is where medicine has gone through wrong, because they see us as damaged goods, that only a pill will fix. But that is actually a very wrong assumption, because we are not damaged goods. Our DNA, your body is a divine machine. It's got the capability, to repair itself. It's the DNA. We've got 22,000 sets of DNA, and it's the programming of the body. So the body knows how to repair itself. And as long as you give it the right things, the right food, the right environment, alkaline body, and also viruses cannot survive. Really, viruses cannot survive. And this is why you had people, that they suffered greatly with, COVID, and some of them that's just gone through it because they have strong immune system. Their mental state was not as bad, during COVID. So the body is able to fight it better.
I'm surprised actually how many people there are who have EBV and they don't know it. And some people don't actually understand that if you have a lifestyle with binge eating, not eating healthy, no exercise, alcohol, like this really, like I cannot drink alcohol. If I drink alcohol, I can feel directly my body is not fine at all.
Yeah. If you take, if you go back in time, 100 years, diabetes, for example, was the disease of the rich, because it was the people that they could eat sweets. Poor people just ate fruits, or they didn't eat treats, or maybe occasionally. So the diets of the poor were better. So they didn't get diabetes because we thought, rich, you eat a lot and you eat the sweets, but actually that's not a good diet. And if you take Alzheimer's didn't exist.
Sorry.
Yeah, take your time.
Sorry.
That's okay. So Alzheimer's is more or less a new disease. It was recorded about 100 years ago, the first case, and it's only in the 70s that became a known disease. So a lot of the diseases that we have today, we didn't have them, is because in those days, people ate better and they did manual work, they exercise. When you exercise, your blood oxygenates. So the environment of the body was much different, and cancer, it was very rare because people were not exposed to the foods we eat today.
Yes.
Red meat, toxins, alcohol, which is also carcinogenic, smoke. So all these things did not exist 100 years ago. So cancer was also not so. It did exist, but not as much as it is today, I think.
Looking at this, your clients, they are from all walks of life. I mean, you're living now in Dubai and you have been living there for a long time. So which means the spiritual guide or a spiritual healer, people are more prone and open to try this out, no?
In my work here, actually, if you see my client, I get a variety, from Western to locals or Arabs and Asians. And, a lot of people, they don't really seek some therapy with, we call it alternative medicine or complementary medicine, because it's not really covered in the Middle East by insurance companies. And so a lot of people prefer to go to the doctors and get the medicine because the insurance is going to cover. So what do I get? I get the clients that had enough of the doctors. So they tried it, it didn't work. And then somebody recommends them, they come here. I would tell you a personal story. When I was diagnosed many years ago with Hashimoto's, which is a thyroid disease, an autoimmune disease, and I have a lovely, lovely doctor, endocrinologist, and she put me on thyroxine to balance out the hormone that my body wasn't producing. And then I healed myself gradually with my natural therapist. Now, at the beginning, when I told her what I'm doing, she didn't believe. And then when my body was started producing the thyroxine, And I told, gradually she got me off it. And then she kept me with 12.5 milligrams. And she said, oh, continue that. I said, why would I continue it? My body doesn't need it. He says, but it's a very small dose. I said, but give me a good reason why I should keep taking it. But going back to the point, she was also surprised, and she told me, how did you do it? And I told her, I said, with natural therapies and changing the way I was, because one of the reasons I got thyroid is because of my expression. So
the voice chakra, Vishuddha chakra.
Exactly. Yes. My throat chakra was always blocked. So then I realized, I'm talking about responsibility. It was one day I had that eureka moment, when I was in that, I was sulking about this and that and people that hurt me all my life. And I was holding on to, I had that eureka moment. I said, actually, it's my fault. And
there we go.
Yes. And I said, why it was my fault? It's because I allowed it to happen. I didn't answer back. I was holding on to I was sulking rather than saying straight in their face, I don't appreciate the way you talk to me. Not being angry or throwing tantrums at them, just nicely saying, I don't appreciate it. And it was like a eureka moment that I took responsibility and that allowed my throat chakra to function again, because it has to function to give energy. But at the same time, of course, through remedies and good nutrition, because now I knew what I needed to do. When I told my doctor, he said, oh, well, she said, I don't know if it's good results. She says, don't take me wrong. It's good results. And I don't, because she doesn't see these results, right? But I don't know if it's going to stay for long, so you better keep an eye on it. And honestly, I've been keeping an eye on it for years. Every 6 months, I do my thyroid test, and my thyroid is functioning properly. No antibodies. So things that the doctors tell you cannot fix. It's not possible.
It's not possible. No.
Things that people go and do operations. Like I had people with polycystic ovaries, people that had endometriosis, people that have so many other acid reflux, all this kind of thing. Actually, with naturopathy, are very easily resolved, very easily resolved. I work with people that have cancer, giving them an alternative way of, improving their chances, So I still say that you get a lot of very good doctors. And as I told you, I've gone, this doctor that I was just saying, actually, she's a wonderful doctor. But they are stuck in their thinking that only a pill can fix you. You're damaged goods. I don't accept that. I refuse to accept that.
I also refuse to accept that. Now, looking at it, because every disease, let's say, has also a spiritual meaning why things happen. So the thyroid is the voice chakra. For me, like EBV is really my solar plexus, my power. Yeah. Bringing power back within, not allowing outside circumstances to control me, which was the case of 2 years being in corporate and being totally like really living and breathing it and like kind of giving up my own life for it. So I know, we know that, but self-responsibility is such a key and people don't like to hear it.
Yes. It depends also how you say it. Like when clients, as I said at the beginning, I get them through because it's a therapy session. So I don't say it's your fault. I take them through therapy session in order to see what I'm talking about. So eventually they do agree, actually, because a lot of them will say to me, but at the time I had no choice. No, we always have choice. It's just not a comfortable choice. Yeah, it's not a comfortable choice. It's not an easy choice, but it is there, When I say to them, why didn't you leave, for example, a narcissistic relationship? They say, I didn't have a choice at the time. You know why they didn't have a choice? Because they actually believed the lies the person told them, that they are not pretty enough, they are not good enough, they're not smart enough. So this is the reason. So how do we get them out of that is to bring them back to self-love and self-care,
Yeah.
because that's what was lacking.
I still remember
The
this.
self-love from their side.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I totally agree with you, because I still remember I was in a situation that, yes, there was also a narcissistic partner, and he actually smacked me against the wall. And like, speaking about this now, I was like thinking, what were you thinking?
Yeah,
That's
you
a
see?
no-go. That's an absolute no-go. So and I was standing in front of the mirror at the dance class, and I saw all these bruises, and people looked at me. I'm like, dude, Geraldine, look at yourself. What's going on? I was about 28 at that time, and I knew I needed to exit, and I needed to plan this really well. I made the choice
Exactly.
that moment. I could not maybe do it. I could have maybe gone directly, but it would have been very tough for me at that time and stage in the UAE. It was not easy. We're not allowed to live with guys together. You remember that the 2007
Yes,
was still edgy,
it was
you
different.
know? And yeah, but there is a choice. But you make the choice at that moment. And I tell you, the universe, the creator, the divine God, will send you all of the tools to help you out. But you need to make this choice in there.
Exactly. Exactly. It's actually a choice to reject. I say to my
Absolutely.
clients, it's a choice to reject the lies that somebody is trying to force on you. You
Yeah.
know, that you're not pretty enough, you're not smart enough, you're not good enough, because that is the game they play.
Yes.
And, you know, and if you play, you know, if you go along, you're playing their cards. So who is winning? They're winning. So, you know, it's important to have self-love and put ourselves first. You have done it. I have done it.
Yeah.
Because that's how you let go of this kind of stuckness.
Yeah. So just guys, to let you know, Despo helped me here in the summer with my stuckness. I remember when I just left corporate. So that was quite an intensive time for me. So just because we do what we do, Despo and I, doesn't mean that we don't go through the struggles ourselves. And I think that's another thing. There are a lot of coaches out there who think love and light. We are not that kind of healers, coaches. We're actually the ones who actually experience really the dark stuff, and where you realize, like, you walk your talk, you go through it, you have experienced it. So how can you support and empower others to go through it?
Can I give you an example?
Yeah.
Unless you have gone through it, like I get many clients that have depression. I think I would not have understood them as well as I do, as you know, because I've gone through it myself. Because I've gone through different conditions in my body, which, by the way, it's all, I have zero going on in my body now.
Nice.
I have perfect health because of what I have done and the changes I made. But it's really about, you know, taking personal responsibility.
Yes.
And I call it self-awareness. It's all about self-awareness. Instead of being in the victim mentality and sulking about things that people told you and people have done to you, take the time to say, you know, what is my share of responsibility in this
Absolutely.
in this situation. And you will find, you know, when I give people an exercise to do, you know, to name you know, a situation where they felt really bad about themselves and how they handled it.
Mm-hmm.
It's about them becoming responsible, you know, and looking at their choices and what choices they could have had. And so it's all about self-awareness. It's not about being the victim. It's about being the powerful one.
It's actually funny because while you're saying this, because I spoke today to a lady who works with our master, our Shifu. So I will be going to the Tai Chi retreat. And I told her deliberately, I allowed it to happen.
Yes.
Because I enabled it. I knew about it, but I allowed it.
Yeah.
And when you take that responsibility, you kind of know, okay, this is what I have to change. Next time you know better.
Yeah. And actually, this is a spiritual journey. And all our, choices, they have consequences. But it's all part of our spiritual journey. Actually, we are supposed to make mistakes.
Yeah.
In fact, as humans, we are trained from birth to make mistakes. So the first mistake is by trying to walk and you fall 100 times before you are able to stand on your feet. So it's failing so you can learn from your mistakes and stand on your own 2 feet. So you're going to eat when you are 2, you're going to become dirty, but you don't feel shame. You will try it again and again. When you fall because you can't walk at 1 year old, you don't say, "Oh, I can't walk. I feel so shameful. I will never get up again." It's because we don't have shame instilled in us yet.
No.
It's instilled in us later on by the society, by the people. It's not something. It's not in our DNA. And then we fear or failing. So it's important for us to reject the notion that we are powerless and and it's shameful to fail. So we can continue to try things. And you are where you are now, and where I am now is because we made different choices.
Absolutely. We made different choices. This is actually a result of what we were thinking, of what we were doing, what we were choosing at that time and space in the past. Yeah, absolutely. And this is something really important for us to understand because speaking all the time, like, oh, yeah, there's so many high figures on mental and emotional health issues. I'm like, yes, but what do we do about it?
Yeah.
What can be done, because obviously the conventional methods have not worked, as you can see the rising numbers.
And you will see why people now, as I said earlier, the insurance companies, at least in the Middle East, they don't pay for somebody like me, but they do come because, they say I will pay from my pocket, but I will try something new. And it was only yesterday, actually, I met a lady when I told her what I had some intestinal issues, and he went to the doctor and says, we need to remove part of your intestine. So they went to a naturopath that healed him completely. And is not my client, but she was excited to share that they totally believe, but they had to pay obviously for the therapy, which is a fraction of the price that you would pay for a doctor. But
it's the same thing when people get diagnosed in France, what I told you, with ALS, which is a really detrimental disease. And then suddenly, just because there's no other solution found, the doctors couldn't find anything else. That's why they just assume it is. I mean, that's like, wow, you kind of just destroyed someone's life with the family. What are you going to do about this? So this is something that I have just paid quite a chunk of money to go to the clinic here in Cyprus, but I knew that this is the only way how I could do it, or I would have to fly back. Would have to see you, or I would have to fly back to Italy to go to my friends. But it's just, you're like, okay, no, I'm going to do this. I know that this helps. Then I need to ramp up my meditation. I need to rest more, need to stop traveling that much. I need to eat well.
Yeah. And, there are so many such simple techniques, actually, as you said, to let go of your stress and anxiety, like breathing exercises, breathing from your diaphragm,
Yes.
deep breathing for about 10 minutes. Did you know that when you breathe from your diaphragm, your body releases dopamine?
There we go. The happy hormones.
And this is why, we know now a lot of the Eastern religions that they base, their techniques on breathing.
Yeah.
Because actually there was a point around it. It's not just for enlightenment, it's for health. So it's a lot of things that I discovered through these last 4 years that I've been writing my new book, and through my channeling, that, the simple things, for example, just humming, which is done also in the...
Absolutely. Polyvagal theory. Yes. It's a
Yes.
specific. Yeah. Bastrika. Yeah. No, Bastrika.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You're talking about the vagus nerve. Yeah.
Yes.
It's or relaxing the vagus nerve, but it's actually, humming helps the body produce what we call nitric oxide, which is a very good thing for the heart, because it's actually produced in our sinuses, and with the vibration, it helps them produce that. So we know a lot of things, simple routines, and some remedies that can help you release the anxiety and live healthier. But, people go on to this vicious cycle of coffee, having 5-6 cups of coffee, which is...
Cigarettes.
You are anxious, but you're having so much coffee. It makes you more anxious because your body releases cortisol while you're drinking coffee. And, so it's really a vicious cycle.
Yeah.
You don't sleep at night because you had so much coffee. Then the next day you are tired. Again, you go into a vicious cycle of having more coffee. So it's these simple things that, people can do, like reduce the amount of coffee that they have. I personally have zero coffee. I personally have zero.
Yeah.
But, I know a lot of people need it, and I'm going to say 1 cup a day, because otherwise it's really not good for you. There's nothing that coffee gives you that is good for you. People can argue, it's got antioxidants. You can take a kiwi and get more antioxidants than you get from a coffee.
Yes.
So, because it's got a lot of bad stuff in it. But anyway, so small things you can do, like breathing exercises, as you mentioned, meditation, 10 minutes a day. You don't need much more to switch off. Your body's mechanism, the nervous system relaxes, because all this starts from the nervous system, actually, because the nervous system destabilizes the endocrine system. When the endocrine system is destabilized, the body gets destabilized. So you relax your nervous system with breathing, with meditation, with what I call adaptogenic teas like chamomile, kava tea, ashwagandha tea, lavender teas. These are adaptogenic teas. Your body relaxes. So there are so many things we can do, and techniques which are very simple and accessible to everybody.
Good. So the final words, what other wisdom would you like to share to the yacht crew, and predominantly the next generation and the yacht owners?
Well, for the yacht owners, I know it's a business. We depend on them getting our goods. So it's not something that, we wish them every success, but the ship owners should do. I have never worked in that industry, so I can't say what they do and what they don't do for their employees.
So, well, we're talking about super yachts. So we're talking about high-end super yachts and leisure vessels, not really shipping.
They, obviously entertainment for their employees, wellness, as we are talking about wellness, give them access to tools where they can relax themselves, do things that they enjoy, provide perhaps books that they can help educate them on a spiritual level. I'm not talking about, learning technical things. Give them things that will take them away, the hours that they are not working will take them away and take them to a different world rather than being stagnant in the world of, then I would say a little, with a bit of reservation because I've never worked on a boat, but I can only imagine a lonely world, because you don't have your loved ones there, you don't have your friends, and that balance is not there. So no matter how much we love the sea and how much we love our profession, if balance is not there, we are going to suffer. It's part of so provide them that balance, find ways to provide them some balance. And similarly, I would say to the sailors, they should look inside them if they're suffering. Now, if they are happy and jolly, there's nothing they can do, they're enjoying it. But if they're suffering, it means they have to go deep inside and ask, why did I choose this profession? What did I run away from? What is my responsibility? Could I have done this better? Could I have done anything differently? How can I fix it? At least they can continue their work, but in a happier state of mind.
Yeah. Yeah.
I
Good.
hope this.
So thank you so much, Despo.
Thanks for inviting me.
And we're looking forward to hearing more about your books and see if there's any more insights. And I like, it's a bit controversial, most likely, what we are talking about, and it will rock the boat. But this is really how we both see what's going on.
Exactly.
And having experienced life, per se, not only one life, but many lives. And we know what challenges can be there. And so for everyone listening, take this with a pinch of salt. This is pretty much just giving you an idea like how you can see things differently and how self-responsibility is really key to be empowered to make the right choices for oneself and not the choice for someone else, for oneself. Okay, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you very much for inviting me.
I see you soon.